What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Climb episode 3. Once again, I am joined by Bhrisy. How you doing, sir?
Living life, man. Living life.
That is excellent. I'm your host as well, XRAY. I'm back as well. I'm here every week, though. But our special guest this week is a little bit of a special one. A man who has played in technically 4 different roles. The Flex Man, the God, somehow can hold Diamond rank, even playing 4 different roles. Mr. Ryan, or Logic. What's going on, sir?
Hello. It's late for me, but we got this.
We'll get through this, so you can go to bed. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it.
Yep.
So, Mr. Ryan,
What's up?
So when did you officially join Summit/La Liga?
Well, I have a good friend of mine. His name was Legacy Figgy. We played Valorant together. And he then told me that he got invited to this league thing that is going on. And he got invited by So Much Dog, Casey.
Oh, okay.
They were friends in some kind of way. I don't know. I never really explored why or how they were friends, but I then said, sure, I love League. I've played since the very beginning. And so I came in and joined, and I was on the Big Hot Sweaty Men with XRAY, Pizza Dog, myself, and Cookies, the hottest of us all.
Team name quality's really dropped off.
Dude, yeah, that's what I was gonna say, man. Before we started making, like, we had to be like monetary or gosh, I can't even think of the word now. Sponsor friendly. Yeah, sponsor friendly. Our name quality in La Liga/Summit has kind of declined.
All I'm saying is back then we would literally draft team comps around who were the hottest and sweatiest men in League.
That was a great team, honestly, just because it, like, the name and then, like, the logo alone was really funny. So
yeah,
I definitely definitely one of the veterans in Summit. So I appreciate you coming and coming on the climb, and yeah, let's head on into week 3. It is officially finished. So, let's start off with the game 1. Fraud Watch versus the Bendables. This was the first series Smolder was allowed to be played in Summit. Affection pulled it out both games. Unfortunately, Fraud Watch did fall short this series. Bendables turning it around, finally. Get their first win, a clean 2-0. Pyrosis had a great series. Everyone on Bendables had a really good series. Fraud Watch, though, looked like they struggled a little bit. So, I mean, right now, Fraud Watch is looking like the team that is, like, I don't want to say the joke, but is like the team that is kind of like a free win. That's like the nicest way I think I can say it.
It sucks to say, but yeah.
Even though they are the fan favorite and probably will be number one in everyone's heart just because of the name and logo. Because that logo is so good to me. But it's painful to say. But the other question is will the Bendables continue this momentum going into the next couple weeks? We're almost at the halfway point for the season, so we will see what they will go or what they will cook up in the next series. Let's start with Ryan. What are your thoughts on this series?
I think Fraud Watch had 2 pretty bad drafts. They already made it harder on themselves with low damage drafts. Smolder is not a champion for most of the game that can put out consistent DPS, and then you're drafting Lux mid as a burst, like catch mage, and then you basically just have like tanks everywhere else. So it's just you're already lacking damage, and you're just hoping to be able to like that what Smolder scales, I guess. I don't know. I didn't like the draft. Game 2, you drafted 3 tanks when they first picked Gwen, or I think it was R2, or so no, blue side
They were
picked,
blue.
and then Gwen responded with red 1, and then you picked more tanks, and that's just giving the game to Gwen. She's going to become a problem that you won't be able to deal with at some point in the game.
28k damage.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
plenty.
there just wasn't anything that they could like. They could have played it really well, and they probably still would have lost.
Yeah.
Just so long as the game made it to 25-30 minutes, it doesn't matter how strong Smolder would get. Gwen is going to destroy that team, so long as the Gwen plays well.
Yeah, the other thing.
So I think there were two. Sorry, I just want one last.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Besides the massive draft blunders by Fraudwatch, in my opinion, I think Pyrosis also just showed that he was the best player in that between both teams, and he just actually showed up for it and like showed that that's actually the case. So
yeah, I think is like honestly, game 1, Pyrosis on the Swain. Like I think Swain just absolutely demolishes this team. Like
they don't have the DPS to kill Swain.
They have like you said, like they have no DPS to kill the Swain. Like they literally have to either A, one-shot him, or they have to literally just run out of his ultimate. But even then, like his team just helps him like chase after him and like slow them. So Bhrisy, your thoughts on this series?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. Drafts were really poor coming out of the side of Fraudwatch. So I think they lost both games in draft. Granted, I think the Smolder pick 2 times in a row, especially like after game 1, how it really didn't work out. Murph pretty much had his way with that bot lane, regardless of the matchup. And like Ryan said, I mean, if this game doesn't go 25-30 minutes, then I mean you're losing. Smolder doesn't have the damage output to take down pretty much anybody. So I think that Yehuzi will. I played in game 2. It was the Ornn versus Gwen matchup. I played that exact matchup against Yehuzi when we played him, and I kind of had my way with Yehuzi. So hopefully he kind of learned a little bit more about that matchup to see the next time he plays Gwen into Ornn, he can kind of do what Dandy did. So I just think that Fraudwatch is going to have to turn something around to maybe take a series or at least take a game, get some points up on the board before the next 7 weeks happen.
Interesting. But yeah, honestly, I mean, Fraudwatch sitting at that last place. Bendables though jumping up to 6 or tied for 6th place, sitting at that 4 points. So it feels nice to jump up in the standings, especially when you're a team struggling to find points and wins. So well done to the Bendables for getting the win. Let's move on to Series 2, the Krusty Trap versus Elend's Entourage. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't get to catch this series. However, I did look at the spreadsheets or like the games on the website, and it looked like a very close series. I think I can't load it up right now, but like XRAY was like 15-4 game 2 on the Jhin, which was crazy to me.
So I'm not sure. You can look at the score and think that it was kind of close, but I will say that Elend's Entourage was never at really any risk of ever losing. They had control of the game. They definitely didn't cleanly win, and by any means how do I put this? They still struggled to finish the games and end, but I don't think that they at any point felt like they were under pressure of losing either game.
Yeah.
It's pretty good assessment.
I think Soulpan could have had a better series. I mean, he's on Maokai though, so it's like,
you're right.
Yeah, what you're always just, you're doing your job even if you're not like making flashy plays or like being a commanding force around the map, but it really just came down to like across the board they just had better players. Like even if Silva was popping off, he did so much damage with his Senna. He was trying his damnedest to carry fights, but it just didn't matter. Like,
Yeah, I mean,
there's not much else to say.
yeah, I mean, on paper it looks like it's close, but going by Ryan's description, was not very close. Bhrisy, any thoughts on this series?
Well, so I can't see Elend's Entourage dropping games to a bunch of teams. I still am pretty confident in them being the strongest team in the league outside of maybe Roblin's Goblins, just based off of the, some of the pieces they have on that team. But
yeah, be careful of what you say, as Roblin's Goblins listen to you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I give Ryan a ton of props because he's been able to put his bot lane in really good positions in all their games. But as Sulpan can do the exact same thing regardless if he's on Maokai. But as far as ending games, I think that is it's a trend in Summit games. I feel you see a lot of 35, 40-minute, 45-minute games going out because teams are really good at working around those problems they face in the early game and mid game. So I don't give Elend's Entourage a ton of slack for that, but again, they got a ton of really strong players in every lane. So I think that they, with how it looks on paper, I don't think that really matters.
Yeah, I think
they're really good.
Yeah, Elend's Entourage just pretty much just outclassed the Krusty Trap. It's a little unfortunate just because, and this is a problem everyone has noticed is like their solo lanes. I mean, in the draft, they're not even worth 1,000 combined. So that's something that they struggle with, and that's where they're lacking right now. And that's why they're sitting at the 9th place, even though Silva has had a lot of really great performances. They're just not able to find the wins yet. So
I don't want to see Silva playing things like Senna or like. It sucks because he's also the targets of bans because there's nobody really else worth banning.
Yep.
But if
the only other person is
like he has to be playing like more like team fight dominant ADCs that can clean up fights.
Like the Kai'Sa. The Kai'Sa was so good in the previous weeks, but I'm gonna guess it was banned this series.
I don't remember what the bans were.
But yeah, so Krusty Trap struggling. Elend's Entourage though is now tied for first at 8 points with Roblin's Goblins. But let's move on to the next series, Bhrisy series. He told me before we started recording he was not looking forward to talking about it, but we're going to talk about it anyways. Beaver Brigade versus Gawr's kindergarten class. Smolder is picked once again in this series, 2 games in a row. And both games, it pops off and takes its first wins in Summits. I mean, Gawr's kindergarten class took a book from previous seasons, Disco Spiders with the double ADC comp, with the Smolder or Kai'Sa mid into the Galio. That was really interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, the double ADC comp popped off. They lost game 1. Game 2 was extremely close. Gawr's kindergarten class almost lost that game. But they came back at the last moment, and I mean, honestly, I can't really say much about Game 3 just because it was just a complete stomp. However, I will say, Dunk stocks are kind of leveling out now. I mean, Dunk still had an incredible series. He was facing a lot of tanks, though, and he's playing a lot of bruisers, so he got a lot of the counter picks. But, he still had a really good series, performing really well. He's trying to carry his team, making a little basket, carrying his team, try to win the series, but falls short, and Gawr's kindergarten class take it back with a reverse sweep. Before we hear from Bhrisy, let's hear from Ryan.
This should have been a 2-0 Beaver Brigade, honestly. I can tell you right now, and I'm sure Beaver Brigade has looked. If they've looked at it, they'd be saying the same things. There was just a ton of like individual mistakes in the second half of fights that, as far as like the fights would go well for the Beaver Brigade, and then they just like wouldn't know what to do in the second half of the fight, or like as soon as the fight concluded, and then they just split apart and get picked off. That happened multiple times. Like the Neversaw play with Smolder, they won a fight and it was just her left, and then they just split up and didn't seem to be on the same page of what to do immediately after the fight, and she was able to pick people off individually. And I think that happened as well with like dealing with like things like Vayne and like champions that you absolutely have to be killing. You have to have coordination as a team, and I feel like that's where they really lacked. It's like individually through the early game, they probably I'd say they outplayed Bhrisy's team. And they had leads. They were stronger going into mid-game fights, and it really just came down to their team fight cohesion and their decision making in or like halfway through fights and at the end of fights that cost them to not be able to just cleanly 2-0 Bhrisy's team. Game 3, I don't know if it was a tilt after losing game 2 when they were so strong, or if it was just Gawr's kindergarten class actually like waking up and like showing what they can do. Because I truly think that if Gawr's kindergarten class is just like drafting smartly and just playing around the fact that Heiko is going to be a griefer, they are one of the strongest teams. No, I'm serious though.
Well,
like
I'm laughing because you're right. Yeah.
No, but like it's unfortunate, but Heiko is a game warping player. He will win games for your team, but he demands everybody to play around him, otherwise he will grief your team.
He's speaking from experience, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So I was on his team the last 2 seasons.
Oh, 2 seasons?
But,
I knew you were on last season.
The season before that as well.
Huh. Interesting.
Yep. And I don't know. I feel like Beaver Brigades have probably beaten themselves up over this game specifically because they should have 2-0'd them. But good job for clawing it back in game 2 and then dominating them in game 3.
All right, Bhrisy, it's your time.
Yeah, well, as far as game 1 goes, I think the only real bad pick that we had was the Senna. I think looking back on it now as a team, we said that the Senna, not a great pick. I mean, Ryan talked about it with how Silva, and just, I don't think Senna is a super strong pick, especially with the comp we had. Granted, we threw that game by 7 minutes. 7 minutes, the game was over. The Galio had, he ended 13-2. He's a mega tank, couldn't kill him. But as far as like the Baron fight, the fight we took at Baron at 4 minutes, was really bad. It may have been different in 4 minutes, but really bad. Set me back. I was in such a bad position even after the 3-man gank top. So I mean, playing from behind against an incredibly strong Maokai, an incredibly strong Aatrox, and an incredibly strong Galio with a Smolder on the enemy team, it was a recipe for failure. So
I also think your draft was bad. You pick
fair
for game 1. Let me explain, right? So you have Azir as your biggest carry threat, and then you drafted an AP jungler with him, and then you drafted a really late game scaling Senna bot lane. So your AD threat is a scaling Senna, no stacks, like a farming Senna basically, and then you have a double AP damage threat throughout the team.
Fair.
It just it makes it harder for Azir because the team can itemize against Talia and Azir, as opposed to Senna, because you're already like Senna is taking a while to really become a threat to anyone.
Right. So. But I mean, again, the game was lost at 7 minutes. I'll leave it at that. Bunch of bad fights. But as going into game 2, we drafted for late game. We knew we were gonna try to take the game late. I completely trolled the top lane for the first 15 minutes of the game. Won't talk about that anymore. Dunk,
we all do
strong. But
Yeah.
Dunk stocks.
playing, yeah, no, dunk on his dunk main is unreal. The guy's crazy. But when you have a mid smolder with 225 stacks at 18 minutes, that's going to be a really hard game to lose. And the play you were talking about, Ryan, where we lost the fight, but Neversaw ends up taking the blast plant to separate Leona from the Vi and the Darius, and then she just turns the fight because she's just the strongest champion in the game.
Well, the biggest mistake was Thim being alone at the wave, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Just died for free.
Exactly. And even in that game, Heiko was putting on too. His Vayne was super strong, so we just had 2 mega carries that just set us up for success. And then game 3, yeah, I kind of agree with Ryan. I think it may have been just a tilt draft for Beaver Brigade. Putting Dunk on Garen was kind of questionable when he's kind of your main carry outside of Asian Jason. Just because, I mean, the Beaver Brigade bot lane played well game 1, but game 2 and 3 they kind of just got pushed over. Because again, Heiko put on with the Samira.
I didn't like the Zac pick game too. I just think it was like I'd rather see Asian Jason play, you know, those carry style junglers. Like Zac, I guess quote unquote can carry, but I think he performs.
Dude, his Zac was so strong.
Really?
It was so strong, dude.
I don't feel like Zac is that. I mean, like in the top lane, I know he's good right now, but in the jungle, I don't think he's that good. But maybe maybe I'm sleeping on things.
He put together insane fights, both bot lane, top lane. He put his laners ahead. He's great on Zac. But yeah, I don't agree that it should have been a 2-0 Beaver Brigade because I think the blunder game 1 could have been avoided, but ultimately we were losing that game. But game 2, I think we had that one pretty locked down by the time 15 minutes rolled around, just based off of how Heiko and Neversaw were playing.
Fair enough.
But it was a good series. Beaver Brigade's really good.
But Gawr's kindergarten class is better.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, Bhrisy, for sharing your thoughts on your series. And let's move on to Ryan's series, Roblin's Goblins versus Savage Mongoose Dynasty. And honestly, MVP for the series for me is Asuna. Honestly, game 2 and 3 on the TF, he played exceptional well, getting a solo bolo on Nico multiple times. Another person I want to talk about is actually Ryan. Honestly, I think the Taliyah pick is so crazy into their team cons because every single game they picked some sort of dash champion and then didn't ban Taliyah every time. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't do it. Like, it was the Xin Zhao. Does Riven Q count as a dash? Oh, yes. It does? Okay, so yeah, that is another thing that I was very confused about. There were a couple other dashes, but I don't remember. Oh, yeah, Nico had a Kali, so it's like you have that dash too. It's like they have just a bunch of dashes, and the Taliyah pick, I think, just goes insane. Struggled a little bit in a couple plays, but still pulled it off in a very strong manner. So well done, Ryan. And then, I mean, honestly, I thought SMD didn't play to their style that we've seen them play in recent weeks. I felt like their team comps were more of like a team fighting based, and I would have rather see them do like the split pushing one because Riven player is just so strong on these split pushers like the Fiora. I was banned I think every single game, but you know, playing these split push type champions and just letting him just split top, I think it would be much better for this team specifically. But they were not playing to their style, and I think that's why they lost this series. Bhrisy, let's hear your thoughts.
So I do agree. Asuna on the TF game 2 and 3 absolutely deserves to be MVP of that series. He was
making a lot of plays happen around the map. Like he was actually like his TF ults were really good as well. Just performing out of
I think that team, the Roblin's Goblins team's ability to basically perma focus their bot lane and set Rob ahead, and as soon as ability to even just roll over Nico for the most part, game 2 and 3, just kind of decided the series. I do agree that SMD may need to move away from like a team comp based play style and continue on with the split push, but I think that the way that SMD played, I only see Riven Player 3 as the biggest threat there. I mean, Casey in the jungle is great, but when your draft goes toward locking in a bunch of one tricks, Riven Player, Casey on the Rengar, what is, I'm not sure if there's any other ones actually. Maybe Nico.
Butts on the Bard, but
Butts on the Bard. Yep. And man, I don't even know if I really want to talk about the SMD bot lane. They had a rough go at it.
I mean, what can you do against the best
Robin
bot lane
D.
in the series
Mhm.
in Summit?
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
it's hard to
And
like,
so
yeah, it's hard to
Rob
say.
Rob getting 2 pentas in, was it, I don't know if it's game 2 or 3. I think MF deserves to be permabanned throughout Summit now. Just based off of how Strand played in the series between the Academy and Crayola consumers. I think that champ is ridiculously strong, and you put Rob on a champ like that, it's kind of over. And then shout out to Ryan for just being able to impact the game as much as he did, and being able to put his laners that far ahead to where it's just kind of over.
If anyone's wondering why we picked Ryan, we picked him last week before even the series was played, so we're not just buttering his biscuit. He had just had a really good performance this week.
He did it for a reason.
He did it for a reason, because he was going to be on the climb. Well,
I wanted my whole team to be on the climb, but whatever.
Yeah.
No, too many resources, not enough time.
Mm.
Wait, Ryan,
It'd be loud in here too.
it would be.
Time for me to talk about the series now.
What?
Oh, yeah.
What are your thoughts on the
Alright,
series you've played?
So I'll give my insights about the games we played. So, game 1, going in the draft, essentially, we wanted to bait Riven Player into playing Riven. We wanted him to, we knew we had answers to it. Essentially, we knew that it's an extremely difficult champion to pull off. It's not as much of a split push threat as other champions that he could be picking, and we wanted him to be playing Riven as a result of that. We got that wish. However, the reason we ended up losing game 1, I would say, is like 60% on me. I griefed really hard early game. Level 2, the Xin Zhao came to invade me at my Gromp, and I didn't put any defensive wards down. I know how vulnerable Talia is early game, and I also greeted my flash thinking that I wasn't going to die. And then on top of that, it ended up causing Tom Kench he reacted to it and came and griefed his own lane as a result. And then we had a couple other grief plays in the next couple of minutes, one top side, one bot side, and the game was already really kind of like an uphill battle for us from there on. But even then, we still probably could have won. We just had some rougher team fights, but we were very confident in the draft that we did. Oh, the other thing, we griefed our own draft too, because we weren't even really paying attention that we were about to be picking our first pick until we're like, oh shit, what are we locking in here? And we did not want to pick Dean Karma. We just panic picked Karma for him, and he was tilted from champ select essentially. If he wasn't on Karma, maybe things would have gone a bit differently. He did not. We forced him on Karma on accident. We literally hostaged him onto Karma.
Why didn't you just first pick MF?
Don't ask me. I don't do draft. I'm watching the hockey game while they're picking champions. Right?
Okay.
That kind of thing happened to us. I think it was game 3, where Heiko actually DC'd from Discord, so we couldn't talk with him about what we wanted to pick, which is why we went with the Rakan at like the last 2 seconds. It was kind of.
So I will say though, game 1 they team fought really, really well with the mechanical champions that they had. And they deserved that win for sure. Game 2, we went into it thinking like that all we needed to do was just clean up some things early game, and the team we had was fine into their team, and it was almost a mirror draft again. We start with like the same picks early. They picked Riven Akali. We picked Talia MF, Tom Kench. However, we did not go with Karma. And on top of that, we changed up the Yone and decided to try out the new OP pick of Twisted Fate. Asuna said he could play it. And
well, he can.
He
Yes,
definitely can.
There was multiple reasons for Twisted Fate to be good there. One, for the immediate matchup against Akali, his ultimate reveals her in her shroud. Two,
Oh, didn't know that.
two, gold card is really easy setup for Talia, which game 3 really showed against the Asol. It's guaranteed stun into rock shove through the gravel on the ground, and it's just a dead mid laner. And on top of that, it gives insane pressure between Talia and TF around the map that even if Riven player was able to get ahead and be a split push threat, he has to respect the fact that TF and Talia can show up at any moment on top of him if he's trying to split push. Or we could be in fog of war, show up there to defend, and then join at an objective of wherever they're trying across the map. You know, like anything of those. It took their win conditions and basically erased them. It really would have just took us having to like grief early game for them to beat us in game 2 and 3. Them letting us pick, continuously letting us have TF and Talia and drafting the types of champions that they wanted to play. As well as them just giving away bot lane by continuously picking Seraphine. It gives a free lane to Rob and Dean, lets Dean do whatever he wants to do for the most part. Rob is under not like very much threat down there. And then on top of that, it forces their top laner, their jungle, and their mid to be damage threats. Game 2, it showed that when he did not pick a damage threat, they did not have the damage to team fight us in any kind of way. We could literally ignore them for the most part between with how the fights were going. And so it forced him again on another damage threat,
right.
which
I was thinking of Casey's or so much dogs Zach that did not.
Yeah, he played Zach game 2.
Yep, that's right.
And then he changed to I cannot remember.
It was
Did
Graves.
he pick Zin again game 3?
No.
Graves, yeah, he changed to Graves game 3 because they felt they needed a more damage, like another damage threat carry style player, especially if they were going to be having Riven player wanting to 1v1 in the side lane. That if they're having Seraphine, that leaves literally just Nico as a damage threat, you know? If they have the jungle on a not damage threat. So it just made it really easy for us. But even then, it's just I don't know. I don't want to come off as like really cocky for my team, but it just always seems like my team is like knowing how to play the game properly.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Like,
okay.
It's the teams that have the best preparation are going to come out and show out. I think that shows a lot with both the top 2 teams in the league. You and Elend Entourage. You guys just have.
I also want to defend Nico as well because I know people are saying that Asuna like styled on him or like Asuna shit on him or whatever, but it's really difficult to play into Talia TF when like the amount of times that it was just TF and I would just blow our flashes, flash gold card into flash rubble. Like the amount of times we just blew everything just to kill him and get him behind in lane and just like hard focus Nico. Like it was a game plan to do that. So it's you can't like I don't want to hear things of like, oh, Nico got shit on or anything. Like it's really rough to play mid lane when the plan is against you in that regards. Like,
Man, maybe that's why I keep getting shit on. I don't know. Teams are just playing.
They're scared of you, bro. That's what I've been saying. They're scared of the solo bolo king.
I'm pretty sure we did it multiple times. That exact gold card set up into killing him, into then being able to move around the map. It frees up TF. It was so rough for him. And yeah,
Props to you guys, man. Good strategies.
Yeah. I mean, you guys are sitting at the top spot now, tied for first with Elend's Entourage. So, I mean, you guys are looking comfortable. You guys are looking like one of the top 2 teams, and
Top one.
Top
Yeah.
1. Well, we'll see after this week. But we have one
Yeah,
more
you
game
can
to
move on to the
cover
last
before
one.
you talk
Yep.
about next week's games.
Yep.
So last series, the Academy versus Crayola Consumers, and I'm actually gonna ask a question first before I talk about the series. So I have a question for you guys. Do you guys think this was an upset? An
Yes.
upset series? Okay, Ryan, you go first then.
I just don't think the Academy is very good, so that was why.
Well, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm gonna go last this time.
Okay, what do I really say here? I think Red Ranger is severely underperforming, for what his usual is. I don't know what's going on over there. But he never, even like if he's never been like a really big carry threat on his team, he's never been a liability normally. And he did not play well against you guys. Like I think he was really the main reason why they lost, especially game 1. The Jin is not it.
Well,
It just wasn't.
my curiosity is why would he pick Jin when Jinx was up? It's like
I don't know. Maybe they're just trying things. Maybe they're keeping things in their pocket for it's a long season. Playoffs are all that matters. Who knows? I don't know what their thinking is, but I just know that you guys shouldn't have won game 1. They basically handed you the game. Like they had full control of the game, and then they just massively griefed the fight and just gave you the win essentially. Although I don't remember much of game 2, if I'm being honest. I don't remember if I fully watched it.
It was just we picked Cassidon. That's all you need to know.
Okay, I do remember it now. Yeah, so it really was just a massive mid diff. Mid to easy, and I talked about this matchup exactly, is that I feel that if Cassidon, Lissandra should not be getting diffed as hard as she is through the first 11 levels and the first 15 minutes of the game, first 20 minutes of the game or so. And if Cassidon is diffing her that hard to the point that Lissandra can't even sit under a tower in a side wave later in the game, then yeah, the game is over. Cassidon is going to just win the game by himself.
Mm-hmm.
And mid to easy did exactly that. They did not pick a good team to deal with that. Although I mean, I still think they could have. Really, mid to easy played it absolutely perfectly. If he was trying the team fight, it would not have gone well. Lissandra, what was it Darius again?
Yeah.
Yeah. So so Lissandra, Darius, the Darius was strong too, from what I remember.
Yes.
Very
Yeah,
very strong.
If Cassidon was in team fights, it's just going to be a lockup CC and burst him down to at least bring him down to where he can't even rejoin the fight, right? But he did a great job of trying to avoid being in team fights entirely and splitting up the enemy team, because the only way that he is under threat is in a wombo combo CC chain, right? Like that's literally it. Otherwise, he can 1v9 the game across the map, and he did that very well. So
yeah. Bhrisy, your thoughts?
So I will agree with Ryan. I think it was an upset. Granted, Crayola Consumers just I don't know how they managed to lose game 1. I asked you when I first joined the call. Yeah. You guys absolutely should not have won that game. I mean, I give Sunny Blues I feel Sunny Blues' pain because I've been there in that tilted position, because there was
same. So have I.
I think the first
We've all
played top
7 we've all been there.
I think the first 7 ultimates that he had used that game, 6 of them missed, and one of them was to escape. So like Owen just had his way with the TF, which was a crazy pick, and he made the best of it. But the pick that they had on Odysseus in the top lane while you guys are turtling in your base, and then quickly moving over into mid lane and winning the fight, just set you up for 60 seconds of a free push down mid lane to win. complete throw. Granted, I will say the stall that you guys had by taking that dragon and taking Hextech Soul from them was good. It saved you guys some time. But again, I think even with that, you guys should have lost. But yeah, game 2, I think that it was much closer. Granted, the GP versus Darius matchup, Owens again just kind of had his way with Sunny Blues. But I will say the bot lane of Academy looked unreal. The MF Strand popped off. PPP playing these crazy supports, J4 and then Vi.
I have a I have a thing with MF. I literally make fun of Rob like all the time because I say you could literally just be sitting there drooling over yourself playing MF and get a good score line.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. And I mean, but yeah, the support picks from PPP, Strand doing his thing. I agree with Ryan. I think the Crayola Consumers bot lane severely underperformed. And so you had a really big lead in the top lane for Crayola Consumers and a really big lead in the bot lane for the Academy in basically both series. And bot lane clearly wins those games.
Yeah, so the reason we won game 1 is I mean, shout out to my boy Strand, had a phenomenal series and a great game on the MF. So gotta help up my boy there. But honestly, so the reason we won game 1 is like you said, Bhrisy, is like we took the Hex Tech Drake, our second Drake. It denied them soul because if we didn't take that dragon, the time they got soul, they would have actually had Elder, and then we would have definitely lost. Then the second play that helped us win the game is we actually went bot lane and we actually got TF's flash out. So we blew TF's flash, and so he ran off, and then I think they went and got Baron or something like that. And then I just hit a really good ultimate. I hit my last sapling ultimate on like the end. I hit TF with it, and I, no joke, flashed on him, and I was yelling my team TF, 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 TF. I have him. He's literally
they had already griefed before that. You guys caught Red Ranger even before that. He was like way pushed up towards your inhib by himself on Jhin, and you guys caught him out and killed him. And then it was a follow-on fight that should have never happened because they should have just been instantly back, and then everybody died. You caught the TF second, I think, but before that you caught Red Ranger.
Oh yeah, no, you're right actually, yeah. So yeah, we killed Red Ranger, but as soon as we got TF, I knew it was like, hey, we're gonna win this because like,
game shouldn't have even been over still, but they literally all entered into you and died.
Yeah.
If one person was alive, you guys don't end the game.
No, one person was it was the support. Whoever the support was playing at the time. I don't remember who they were playing.
I think it was
But
yeah, no,
the support was live, but they can't do anything to us. So, but
the only wave clear champ they had coming up as you guys are pushing on the Nexus was the Akshan, and that you guys were at Nexus when that was happening. Just
right,
60 seconds of death timer.
Crazy. It was a crazy game
people.
for sure.
It was definitely a crazy game, and honestly, I think game 2 was
a 1v9.
Like I said, 1v9. I mean, I literally did nothing that series. I did 4,100 damage.
I agree.
4.1k. That's all the damage I did the whole series. It was like a 30-minute game or something like that. I did 4k.
Yeah, no, I think that was the most genuine 1v9 that we've seen this season so far.
Like I literally was just like, "Hey, you need me?" He's like, "No, I'm good. I'm just gonna push wave." It's like, "Okay, I'll go be with the team then." And so that's what we did. Is we just 1v9 mid too easy. Number 1 mid, honestly, in my book, this guy is cracked out of his mind. But yeah,
I'm better.
And the Academy move up to tied for second. So that's epic. But Crayola Consumers.
And that's all the games, right?
Yeah, that's all the games. Crayola Consumers fall down tying with the Bendables, which is weird to say. Tying with the Bendables is very interesting. But yes, we are going to now move on to predictions for the week. Here you go. As you can see, myself 10-5, Bhrisy 12-3 with his, I forgot to mention it last week, but a 5-0 in week 2, so well done. Venom 9-6.
5-0 coming this week.
Sunny sitting at 6-9 because he didn't give me his predictions last week, so he lost all of them. And then special guests are 11-4. So I'm really excited about this week because there's a lot of matchups. We're gonna be seeing a lot of who's better than who. So let's just start off with the Academy versus SMD. Pretty split, honestly. Bhrisy and Logic going with Soma or SMD. And then, of course, me and Sunny and then Venom go for the Academy. Honestly, I think this is actually going to be a pretty close series. I mean, we're both tied for, I believe, 6 points. So we're both tied for second. So we're going to see if one of us can move up to either second place alone or maybe no, we can't get first. Yeah, no, so it'd be second place alone. So we'll see. Not going to really talk about that game. GKC versus Crayola Consumers. Pretty clear, concise, as you see. All went with GKC. This is the series I think is pretty interesting, though, because this is going to determine who is solo first place now. Elend's Entourage versus Roblin's Goblins. We've been talking about both these teams the whole season, and now they're facing off. One of the top 2 teams right now. So myself, Bhrisy, and Venom going with the Elend's Entourage. Sunny and Logic, of course, going with Roblin's Goblins. So Logic, let's hear your thoughts on this series.
Entourage versus my team?
Yep.
I don't.
You got any words for Elend's Entourage? Because you are playing against probably the best jungle in the league.
I can't be playing against myself.
Oh,
love it.
Okay,
love it.
Hang on, I think we're just gonna end it there. That's a sick.
All
right.
I don't really have anything to say to them, other than I guess have fun, good luck, don't grief draft.
True.
All right, I like it.
I think these are the 2 most prepared teams going in every week. So I think it's gonna be a really, really good series. It will absolutely go to game 3.
Yeah, I think so. I've been on both teams. So both captains, I've been on both of their teams, and both of them have done the most draft pep with them. Out of every single captain I've ever had, both captains have done the most draft pep when I'm with them. So I'm excited to see what each captain will cook up, and yeah, I'm excited about this series in this game. So let's move on to the next game. Beaver Brigade versus the Bendables. Beaver Brigade, XRAY, and Sunny. And then Bhrisy, Venom, and Logic go with the Bendables. So I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on the series because honestly, I was expecting it to be all Beaver Brigade, honestly. Because I just think they're just the better team right now.
Probably.
Yeah.
But
I would agree.
So, but
yep.
what do
Same.
you So then why did you pick the Bendables?
Because I think mental states are important as well.
Agreed. I think Beaver Brigade coming off of a really tough loss against my team.
Yeah, a really tough loss that they should have won.
And I think the Bendables coming off of
Yep.
granted, it was a win against Fraud Watch.
They got their feet under them.
But yeah, exactly. You get, you feel good after a 2-0 series win. You're going to go into the next week feeling good. I think that the Bendables bot lane is very, very good. And if, they can get them a lead, I think that the bot side. Well, actually, remind me again who the mid laner for Beaver.
It is
World Soup.
World
yeah,
Soup.
World
Okay.
Soup. Yep.
I would say top and jungle matchups go to Beaver Brigade, and mid and bot lane is going to go Bendables. So as long as the Bendables can play to their strengths, I think they come out with a
Taking
series
World
win.
Soup over Pyrosis.
No, you said
Pyrosis.
World Soup is
Beaver Brigade, and the Bendables is Pyrosis.
Okay.
Were you asking Bendables mid laner? Sorry.
Yes, Bendables.
Oh yeah, it's
mid laner.
Pyrosis.
That was Pyrosis.
Okay, yeah.
My fault.
So I think the bot side, or like starting mid lane into bot side, I think that goes to the Bendables, and Beaver Brigade has the top and jungle. So if they can play to their strengths, I think Bendables take this series, just like Ryan said, based off of mental.
I would not be surprised if Beaver Brigade wins.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I wouldn't be either.
I just had to pick one, and I decided I wanted to go with fucking the Bendables.
Yeah.
Just
I was gonna say
it's also got my boy Tubby on it, you know.
I think the Bendables.
Yeah, shout out Tubby.
I think the Bendables actually have a better bot lane than, or not the Bendables. Beaver Brigade have a better bot lane than the Bendables. My personal opinion.
If Thim and Barbecue Leona can do differently than how they played against Heiko and Saucy Chas, I think they have a chance. But Thim
and Barbecue Leona haven't seemed to be on the same page a lot of times.
Yeah.
It showed in team fights. It showed in the duo lanes. It showed throughout both, like, their whole series essentially.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, and it's not even like either player is like making big mistakes. It's just literally just them not being on the same page. Like if one player did one thing and the other player followed it, it's not a mistake. But because the other player didn't, it looks like a mistake. And then it's like the other player does something and the other player didn't follow up, it looks like a big mistake. Even though if you know they work together, it might not have been a big mistake. You know, like it's just how it is sometimes.
Interesting.
But the cohesion just doesn't seem to be there between those two specifically, and then even with the rest of the team as well. And that's just what I worry about with them, is that even when they are getting leads and being strong through the early game, I just want to see more like clean fighting and like clean decision making as the fight is finishing and on what to do next.
Fair enough.
Yep, I agree.
Moving on to the last series, Fraud Watch versus the Krusty Trap, the two bottom teams. So everyone went with Krusty Trap besides Logic. All right, Logic, hit me with it.
Well,
everybody loves an underdog.
That's true, actually. That's why I picked them last week. I thought they were going to
I don't think they even played bad last week. I think they literally just made it impossible for themselves to win through draft. I think that if they had drafted champions that gave them a chance to win the game and played the way actually played the way they did it through those games, they could have won the games. But they drafted terribly both games. Like I severely think, or I really do think that they had severe draft gaps, and that was just it was unwinnable going into each game.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm just hoping that they fix that, and then I think they can actually beat this team.
Well, that would be a very big advantage if you could pull off that win, and it would be awesome because I think everyone would be happy. Even me. I would love to see Fraud Watch win. A lot of good people on that team, and they're the people's favorite. So, but
they're not bad players.
They're not bad players.
They can do it. They just need to get their head out of their asses when they're drafting, and then just stay confident in game.
Fair enough. But that will wrap up this episode of The Climb. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you Ryan for joining us this week. You can go to bed now. Thank you again Bhrisy for joining me. And yeah, that's where we're gonna end it off. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye, Summit.
Good night.